much. This is the sandbox portal. This is exactly the same as what our merchants would see.
Okay, but they're not live transactions. It's more for configure things.
Exactly. But some configurations you do on this platform are also the same as what happens on live. So, for example, adding users, creating tokens, and company information. You can edit it here and also be for live. But the difference between live and sandbox is also important for you to know. Is this banner that appears on the top?
This is wow. Okay.
That's the only difference.
Okay.
And these are the merchants in the live, right?
Mm-hmm. So we have a number of merchants that are in sandbox who don't have any configurations for live. So when we create an account on sandbox, there's automatically an account created on live, but it's not activated until we start to do some configurations, create an account, add users or something like that, add tokens. So it's more or less a dormant account on live until they choose to, or until we do it for them, configurations. But just so you know, the difference here is just that URL.
But if you announce that a new merchant is online or live, then it is that you put him into the live, that he has his first live transaction run through our system.
That's how we know, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you'll see there are some other differences with the apps down the left-hand side between what you just saw in live and sandbox. The environments are exactly the same, except there is a 20-minute delay. So when we do a release of the OPG or to the merchant portal, we first release it on sandbox, and then 20 days later we then release it on live. So, and this is also for the OPG, that we have this difference in time. Basically, it is the same environment, but depending on what we've updated in the last release, there'll be 20 days delay before it's updated on live. Anybody else? Have any of you created a merchant or have a merchant, a demo merchant?
I've seen a merchant, but I've never created one. Like, is this a website for them where they can see that, like, how many PSPs they have, different contracts and all other configurations that they have?
Yeah. So this is the platform that all merchants can see their configurations that are visible on the optile side. So through here, this is where they land. When they log in, they land on this page. And you generally, if you have all user rights, which I'll go through a little later, you can see all these different applications down the left-hand side. So there's 5 different user roles. I'll tell them about it now. Actually, 5 different user roles. There's the administrator, who can we'll see this window here. They make changes to company information, add and delete users, create API tokens. And
so if you go to users, is the employees of the clients who can do some configuration.
Exactly. So for example, this is if I go into this one, this is Optile's merchant. Oh no, it's not my merchant. I can see here. This is my merchant. You can see which users are configured.
Which users are configured?
Or enabled to access it, my account. So you can see there's a number of different users here.
And they have the same rights as we do? Or?
No, you can see the rights here. I have all rights, but for example, Joseph just has business rights. Okay, so you can create, you can see my live transactions if I did have live transactions, and my sandbox environment. But I don't need this one down here. This is Simon's personal email. He doesn't need access to my account anymore. I can just remove him, and he is now gone. I can easily add users.
Okay, but this is something the merchant does on its own, so it's not something we do. So if he has a new one, I don't know, account manager, then he can update it there.
He can, and we'd like them to, but we've babysat our merchants that we do it for them. So we'll get emails and support and add delete a user, provide these user roles. We do it for them and then send back a message. You can do this yourself. This is the instructions on how to do it. Then they send an email back after this is deleted out the user. So, but because we're trying to work with the enterprise merchants and have a higher level of service, we do this. We're not going to say no, do it yourself. Although eventually, if a customer wants more efficient service, he learns it's easy to do himself. And the API tokens, this is what a merchant needs to pass from their system to our system, or the OPG for the transactions. They need to pass one of these tokens. Now, these tokens can be generated for live. This is more or less a password you can think about. So each merchant has a username, and for this account, it's demo.jh, and then the password is then a token. And that's also easy to use as a matter of clicking on the button. For the live environment, it's just called a payment token. For the sandbox environment, it's sandbox. And you just give it a name, which is appropriate to what you're trying to do. If it's to a specific person, for an integrator, they might put somewhat of a descriptor. It's up to them what they use. And then we generate this token. And this will be the only time they see it. It'll never be reproduced anywhere else. So it's important that the customer copies it and records it in their system. So you copy it, and then this one will be now available.
Is that to get access to the API in general, or is it really for every payment they do?
So every time they call a payment, so ARCs do a list request to call our system to start a payment session, they have to send this password.
But only this one, it's not a new one, it's always the same one.
The same one, yeah. So these are not, there's a technical word for it, but they don't expire.
But it's not the token they need to get access to the secure storage, where the credit card details are stored. This is not the thing, huh?
No, this is something different. So when they register an account with us, they don't actually get the details. So when they register an account with us, it goes through the transaction process, and we send them back a registered account ID and then a password, which is specific to that registration of that card. So it's very different. And it's easy just to delete them as well. You can delete it for whatever way. If you think it's compromised, if for whatever reason it doesn't work, you can just delete it. And Sandbox is not so sensitive, but any live tokens are very sensitive and should not be, if they're shared only in secure file, in secure file transfer. So locked zip files or secured emails.
Is the same portal used by all merchants with their own login credentials, or we provide them a separate dedicated portal for that particular merchant?
There's difference between the different clients. So we have the white label clients. So it's, for example, Novartis or Volkswagen. They will have a portal that fits their CV, corporate identity. So we type in Volkswagen, it should come up in different colors. The structure is exactly the same, but the appearance is different. So if I create a new merchant called Pretty Shop, when you log in, you'll see exactly what you just saw there. But if you have different access, if you don't have administration access, you wouldn't see this merchant profile box, for example.
Why?
So this is their Sandbox account for Volkswagen. And so they've
worked together with Allianz. Do we have a partnership with them right now?
We don't have, and we probably won't have. We're not best friends.
Yeah, this is what I want.
So we do connections to different providers, payment providers, based on request of the merchant. That doesn't mean we have a good relationship with
So
them.
that was the request.
Yeah, this has been requested by a number of merchants.
Because often they come from Adyen.
Yeah, so it's part of the transfer phase, I guess. Adyen's not as Catherine touches on, they're not necessarily happy, so they come to us to try and provide a different solution which enables them to move away. So of course, then they generally use the Adyen adapter that we have. Okay, I'll pull back out of here and go back to demo. But this can be styled based on the requirements of the merchant that does a white label solution. And under the white label solution, they'll then have sub-merchants.
They don't have.
They will have.
Takes a long time.
Yeah. It's like a decade.
Yeah.
Just exactly. But it's very long.
It is painful. One of the problems is, if you have more merchants, it's the longer it takes to load, 'cause it reads
Awesome.
for all the minute. I've got a lot. And what can I show you from here? So up the top bar is a link to our website, description of where we are now. This is the address. Most merchants, this opens up to the OPM, which is a tool that is available for the merchants to see what providers there are available in which countries and what methods they offer. So you may have seen this before from our website. You can dig in here a little bit deeper and play around. You notice we have a lot of different, more countries than other places in the world, which is one of the benefits of optile.
Remember, it has been commented that this is not specifically clear. The 300 and provide is okay, but in the 250 countries and territories, what does this mean? 250 countries.
We have more countries than the UN recognizes.
Okay, that's why.
It's been raised. It's a
Multiple.
It's a big issue to get rid of it. And so it's easier just to put a sentence there that's a bit ambiguous, but it's adding territories.
Okay, that's why.
Because even you've got small islands south of Australia that have no population except for penguins. That's also known as a territory now. Why? I don't know why it's been added as such, but it's the way it is at the moment. Unfortunately, can't get back. I'm back to the portal. And the documentation, this is very interesting to any new merchant that comes to us.
Okay.
And whenever a merchant requests a connection or a merchant account, this is what they're mostly looking for, is optile documentation, which every user has access to.
Do we have access to optile.io by default, or do we have to request for it?
No, you should have it
Because
by
I
default.
tried to logging in, but I don't know that I couldn't log in.
We'll have a look afterwards. You should have access to it just as a well, valued optile employee. You should have access. It's just a matter of whenever you sign in as an optile user, you still have access. Basically, I'll show you how later on. But we have these. The documentation looks like this.
So that's where all the PDFs are, or the user guides. Was it manuals?
No, this is the technical documentation. This is for developers, which is also not bad for you guys to have a look at if you get a chance. It gives a basic instruction on how optile works, and it's not that complicated to go in and have a look. So if you have a look at the first chapters of the optile documentation, I'll send you the link later on. If you just follow these first few steps, it's quite easy, and you'll end up passing your own transaction. But then, as you read down, it gets more complicated and takes a lot of time. So basically, here, this is our table of contents for this page. This is the description. And here we get, oh, I should scroll down to expand the page. But as you scroll down, you can see you find different code, JSON code and script.
So
on this right-hand side.
The merchant is expected to do this?
So when a merchant signs with us, we have this promise they implement once. So they have to implement or connect their system to our system. And once they connect to our system, they are able to connect any other provider that we already have integrated. So the benefit to merchant is they connect to us once, and then they get the integrations, all the others. Where if without us, they'd have to integrate every
single one. But this they're setting up on their own. We don't do it for them.
Exactly. But in support, we answer the questions as they arise.
Okay, as they along the way.
So you guide them through.
Something like this, yes. I'm not quite sure how good our guidance are, but If we don't know, we find someone who does. But it's also something to look through. It's not necessarily inspirational reading, but it's there to read. Here's the OPX tools, also documentation we have about that. Is where you often hear about KPIs that we have, is where you can find more details about the KPIs and different reporting tools that we have. And the API reference, which is the biggest tool for any developer who integrates our system. This is where they get all the information about what they have to put into a call, the different payment flows, and the code they need to be able to read. So where the system works is we do a call. A call to our system. I'll show you behind.
Very basic.
Yeah, just so you know how it works in the back end. So our system will call. So the shop system will call our system through what we call API call.
API call. Okay.
And that's to an address. So at the top, is live. This is the term that we use as the list request. So in the list request, we have all this information, which is what the shop will send to us. And once we post that, if they have this integration type, we give them a series of links, or we get a mistake. So if some of the information doesn't match correctly, you'll get an error.
Where's the error published?
I can see on the right hand side. So yeah, I'll pass some transactions. I guess you can find them in a second when I go to the next. So here you see, also incorrect. Oh. So this is the username we spoke about before. This is my user the token that I've stored from before. So this time it's been success. So my demo shop has called the OPG with the list request. This payment session is now being open, and we send the shop back lots of different URLs where they can build their payment page.
And all of this is happening automatic or
within the fractions of a second. But what's nice to see is what we can also provide. So everything that's provided here is exactly the same as what we provide here in this link that I'll open. So this is using a hosted integration. There's different types of integration depending on what PCI level a merchant has and how they want their shop to look and how much effort they want to put into the integration. So we've called the most simple one, where we send this to the shop, then they build this into their payment page themselves, what you see when you hit the checkout button. Very simple for them to integrate and has all the information as opposed to those URLs. Okay, that's as deep as I want to dive into that because otherwise we go too far. So we're going back to any questions? We have time because this takes a while to load.
I'm just wondering if a merchant realized that that there's an outage or something doesn't work or something like this. Can you report it to this merchant portal too, if this still runs, or how does he report some incidents?
That's a bad idea. He has to send an email.
Okay.
There is a link here, optile support,
Okay.
which they can submit it from there. It's a classic Zendesk form, which you see from any other shop, where you have your name field, you describe your issue, and then you put your email, and then you click send, and that'll then trigger a ticket in our system.
But if it's not working anymore because the whole portal is down, then you can send us or ordinary email.
And most people send by email.
Okay.
If they send an email to support@optile.net, it triggers a ticket, which is just this system here. It's what it looks like. It's what Simon and I spend most of our day looking at. So I'll just open up tickets in here. And these are the open issues that we have on our books at the moment and that we work on. And that's just somebody from either they submit a ticket from our help desk, which is in here. We provide this URL to all our merchants as well. And in here we have a very basic Zendesk format. We've even got the Zendesk, some of the URL. Where you click on here and you get the frequently asked questions and so on. What we offer here when we do have outages, we report it on status page. So a merchant can click on this and find the current status by going, it'll then link them to the status page. This then provides a link to our optile.io contact support. And this is the form that we currently have. It's those simple fields which you see in any other website when you have an issue. Any other questions about support and what we do? Okay.
Save the world.
Lives.
In terms of optile.
Save lives every single day. Okay, so down the left-hand side, this is the apps. So the merchant profile app, this is where we go into see the merchant change their customer details, add users, API, and add divisions. So we have the structure. So underneath, we have the merchant. Then underneath there, the merchant can have a number of different divisions, and they can divide that more or less how they like. So they may have one shop, may have a number of different shops with different names, and they may want to have all their transactions passed within that shop with a subsequent name, or they could divide up per country and have one shop for France, one shop for Germany, and so on. There's potentially how they could use our system. There's different combinations about how they could do that. Most of them go for something really simple that fits their business case. Every merchant has a different business case and has a different way they want to use Optile to integrate or work with their system.
Is it hard to adapt to each one of their needs, or there's not much changes that can be
No, on the onboarding phase, in support no, but on the onboarding, yes. It's a lot of meeting their demands.
Yeah.
Our product is very flexible. We can do lots of things, and there's a lot of features or functions we don't have yet. And it's not because we're slow, it's just because there's new things coming out all the time.
Oh,
And
in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. For example, we've got one merchant who has 5, he uses a number of sub-merchants instead of divisions. And when they add a new provider, often we have to develop new functions that this provider, or new features that this provider offers that we don't have. Payolution's a good example of a provider that we had to do a lot of development work on the APG.
Okay.
So if I'm always struggling with this merchant and division thing, but if I create some subdivisions or divisions, then the merchant can see every detail, every transaction details. But if I don't want that the merchant sees the details for the German shop, or the Austrian guy shall see the details from the German shop, then they have to create a sub-merchant, yes?
A different merchant, yeah. So XXX Lutz is an example where they have lots of different merchants.
Okay.
Because XXX Lutz has different countries and different shops. They've got Mobile X, Mobile Max, there's Ninja, and then they have in different countries, each of those different brands. So you can see that at the moment I'm on my default vision. I wonder if that's going to stay in the video forever.
the right man.
He's a very dedicated. He's working from home in London. So I guess it's only 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Why can't I get on my? Oh, I know why. So this here is from the front page, and so the divisions aren't relevant. So here you'll see all the different contracts that also been that have been configured. So what we advertise what they could offer, what we currently offer, and what they could add if they had the credentials they want to test. They can even click on one of these in Sandbox. Click on one of these and test to see how it works. And that's, you can see all contracts. There's two different ways. You can go here for these ones. You can go on from the right hand side, or you can click on the application on the left, which is the shaking hands, which is a new icon. So you'll notice this is different to what's on live at the moment.
So the access rights are always per merchant, including all divisions. I always have to create another merchant if I want to limit access rights.
Exactly, yeah.
And how is it for reporting? Can I do reporting per division or only per merchant if I want to look at certain
Well, the KPIs, it's per division.
Okay, so that's more granular.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can share that in it's one of the apps, so we'll come to that. You can see here's the different contracts. As part of to configure a contract, what I'll show you now. You click on here, add a new contract, but you'll see there's the different methods that are available, which region it's available, which division it applies to. So you have the merchant, then underneath the merchant, if you want to divide your shop into different countries, for example, or you have different brands within that merchant. And you can select different properties of the payment features we have.
Also like monthly payments or just one-time payments.
Exactly. And then you also got 3D security, which you also click there.
3D security?
Yeah, exactly.
For properties?
So when you have a contract, some contracts require that the merchant has a second level of security check. So that's when you get redirected. You click on the pay button, you get redirected then to MasterCard Secure or the strange looking page is not very good, or you get a SMS sent to your mobile phone.
That's a property.
And it says the status of where the transaction is. I'll go and add a new contract. So this is all the contracts we have available. When you just want to add, so you select the provider you want to add. These are the ones we have available on Sandbox at the moment. So you can just pick one. Do you have a choice? Do you have any preference? I recommend Test PSPX. That's probably a good point to speak on. So when people integrate with us, we've developed our own optile PSP, which is a test PSP, which each merchant should add to their account and use this to do their testing. So when the test PSP simulates different behaviors based on the amount that's in the transaction value or the amount, it'll send different codes back to the merchant. So transaction successful, transaction failed, account registered, account registration failed, or to do a refund, which we call a payout, and so on, yeah.
But if we have a new partner, a new
Merchant?
Payment PSP, even if it's partner or not, then we add it there in this list. Yes.
It will be added. So it
will be as soon as it is available. It will be added there.
It'll be added in this list here on the right.
Because in our contracts we promise them that we send them an updated list, but I'm wondering if this makes sense. If he has it in its merchant portal, then we can only say, okay, it is provided within the merchant portal in the list. So this is why I'm wondering. Would make the life easier for us. Okay.
We provide it on request.
Yeah, just on request. Yeah.
I don't think we should provide them every time. Yeah. Well, we could, but that'd be junk mail. That'd be spamming. It depends on how the management like that to happen.
And sometimes we have another list than the list in the merchant portal.
There's the sales list.
Do we announce to our merchants if we have a new payment method available? At the moment, we don't, right?
We want to do, this is done by marketing. So we want to do a release, from what I understand, for the PayPal, when we finish the new PayPal integration. You could say that a PayPal integration, Amazon or a Google integration is more impressive than just, for example, one of the German payment methods. So when something more, let's say, significant, we would try and do a press release and do it with the smaller ones, not necessarily. Unless you have a partner agreement. On a partner agreement, I'm also not sure there may be a release on a partner agreement. But we do have a lot of PSPs that we are connected to that we don't have a partner agreement. You all know what the value of a partner agreement is?
The what?
A partner agreement. Do you understand what a partner is or is not?
PSP. PSP and merchant, right?
And it's an agreement between us and the payment provider. There's a number we have, and basically we have a better relationship with those ones.
Let's say a merchant has wants to integrate with some PSP which we don't have adapter for. Then what do we do?
We call you. So we have a process where the provider, the new merchant, communicates with us that they want a new adapter.
Okay. The merchant will request.
Exactly, and then so we.
Provider, no, what is it called? Adapter.
There's a step before that.
Factory. Adapter factory.
Yeah, so we have a request form where they request which provider they want us to integrate. If they know which API, we should know what features they already want from previous information we have about the integration. And then we also want to find out which countries they want to trade in, which currencies, which methods they want to use to trade. And then we, with the API documentation, when we receive it, we send that to Alina. It also gets put on the ASB, which to dedicate our resources. Alina will then do an assessment of the payment features they need, the payment methods they want, the countries they want to trade, and the currencies, and then she'll do a cross-reference between their request and what the provider actually provides. And then she'll do a complexity assessment, which indicates if we can do it, if we can't, requests more information. And then from that, the more or less goes back to the ASB, request resources for a developer.
The merchant has also to officially sign off on that. Because sometimes what they request is not exactly what we can deliver. So then
Are we still doing that?
we write.
Has that changed?
We do that, yeah.
That they sign off now?
Per email. So we send them and say, here, this is the complexity assessment. It's going to take us XYZ weeks. This is what we can do. This is not what we can do. Do you want it? Once they say in writing, yes, they want it, then we start the official building.
Yeah,
we can make sure that we're only building stuff they really will use. In theory.
In theory, yeah. Confirmation. We're not necessarily, we don't ask necessarily for a signature, but a confirmation.
Yeah.
Because this is very costly for us. And we've got, if we look at the adapter steering board agenda, there's 30 items on there.
And plus, there's new features being released by the industry, so that's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Which is then obviously adapter. It depends on the contract and how it's managed, but that goes into sales and the account management team look
So
after that.
Is that when they sign with us, they can buy so-called credits, and each adapter we build for them costs them a credit. But this is not covering our cost. This is more to make sure they understand this is costing us money and time. And sometimes we also, in the contract, we give them 5 credits for free when they sign up with us, and then they use this up. So it costs them something, but it's marginal. It's like 1,000 euros. So it's more like, here, we do something for you, so make sure you will also use it, so that they're not just requesting right, left, and center. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
No, I think we usually don't give them away for free. If there is a hiccup on our side, then sometimes we say, okay, we won't charge you a credit for this one. Usually, once they officially say, yes, we want this, then we will charge them a credit.
So it's a new one. So if it is
Yeah,
already
if
a
it's existing,
partner,
no worries,
it's the next, yeah.
This one of the complex things is often a communication issue that we have. We have a connection to that provider, but we do not have the feature they want, don't have the payment method they want. We don't operate in that country, hasn't been implemented. So there's lots of miscommunication, which is something we really need to work on.
But then
Which-
we have to charge them another credit because we don't have the payment, the method integrated within this provider or whatever. Ah, okay.
I don't think we do, because we promised them that we have this integration list, and then so I'm not quite sure. That's again sales and account management, and legal can get involved in that as well. But that's what happens. So we have a merchant sees we've got the list of these adapters, and they want to integrate on the live environment most definitely, but the sandbox they can just try it out. If they want to integrate into a payment method that we do have, we still need a request form. Again, detailing which methods they want, which payment features we get this information from a different, from the integration. And then we cross-reference what we have with the API documentation and see what we don't have. And then again, that gets summarized by Alina and then gets put back to the ASB, and we try and allocate resources. Yeah. So testing, go back to the test PSP, which is our tool. The merchant simply puts in their configuration details. What? Oh, it's not coming up automatically.
Maybe it's supposed to be that intentionally. Right. Okay.
And that's all you need for this one. But each, I didn't actually show you there. I didn't show you. I didn't make comment about it. Let's go back to the different contracts we have. We'll come back to that one and fix it up. For some, we'd like the merchants to do this by themselves, configuring their own contracts. But at the moment we do it, we probably will continue on doing it. But with each new provider we implement and put on our platform, in support we generate a guide which indicates how the merchant should complete their contract configuration, with what parameters are required, what credentials are needed, so username, password. If there's different codes that need to be passed between their system and the merchant system, the API.
Isn't this slow for merchants as well?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't this slow for merchants as well when they open it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It doesn't help the sales team.
Yeah, definitely. Are we working on this part? Like, is there any particular?
We have Indian developers who we use, I guess, as freelance to work on the live freight system that we have. There is a roadmap to have our own system. How that's developed and how far it's gone, I don't know.
It's a huge problem.
That is something we talk about in the office.
Isn't these guides that you were just referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where? Okay.
So if we have one and we have uploaded them, we are a little bit we are a little bit behind. But if we do have the integration, we try and generate a. I put it behind here. Secure training access. So if you guys know a working student, someone who wants to be a working student, they can come and join the support team and help us out with what we need to do, all the stuff we have a backlog of. I think my arrow is right behind that blue box, so I can't see them.
I can close it.
Can I close this?
Yeah.
It's not, oh, hang on, I can move it.
No, but now the closing box. You can just close it.
It's not going to close the meeting. So here's the.
No.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Oh, it's got the old logo.
Oh.
and then you just put in the different information. So on some of the providers, there's work that the merchants have to do on the PSP's platform, which we don't have a lot of control of, but we still try to show the merchant what they should do on the provider's platform and get the information they need to take onto our platform. Most of these platforms from the other providers have so much more features, abilities, or important information that we don't know about and don't require for the configuration on our side. And the merchant basically has to go to their provider if they have problems with this part of the documentation and configuration on their platform.
Right, it's still intelligent. Okay.
We don't provide the merchants in general our sandbox details. If asked for it, most of the time we give it, but it was definitely a policy at some stage in the past not to do it. So here we got basic information what the merchant has to do on the side of adding in this example. We'll have to take information and then add it in our system. Oh gosh, Stas, you don't need to read this. It's just for demonstration purposes. And then you come to what they have to do on our side. As again, it was before, add a contract. We provide the URLs. Well, this is very old. And then you select the payment provider, different API if we have more than one, with the contractor name. And then we provide more information about our terms are sometimes different to the terms used by the PSP. And so there's a small mapping page, and then where the information should fit in the contract configuration section. So the test PSP one you saw before, you can pretty much put in any dummy data and create a new contract. But for real providers, there's more information you have to put in, which is not self-explanatory for most people. It takes some time to understand how the system works. So the first contract, if a merchant wants to do it, will take a lot longer than the second and the third.
Yes, and in the merchant portal, can a merchant find the forms that we were talking about, the request forms?
It's a project. It's good that Yvonne's sitting next to me.
Okay.
It is a project that is being delayed. There's some things that need to be done, for example, which I have to follow up on.
So here we have some documents, some more legal documents, this thing about product descriptions and so on. And this is a place where we thought it would be a good idea to implement the forms as well, so that there is a download area, something like this. So
I mean, ideally, what would be, I'm not even sure if that's technically possible, but really cool would be for the existing ones that we have, you say, okay, you're in the merchant portal, and then you realize, damn, I always wanted to have first data, and then you click on first data, click on a link, and then you have the form pre-filled out.
yes, here we are.
Everything's
If I want
possible.
to put it on my Christmas wish list.
There is a Confluence page for improvements for the merchant portal.
Okay.
I don't know where
We
it
can
is.
put everything on it. You would like
Yeah,
to?
most
Oh
definitely.
my God.
We want to build a new product. We want that product, hopefully not to become too complicated, but simplified for the merchant to make it more efficient. When you look at the platform from other providers, it's got a different style. Some are better, some are worse, some are more user-friendly. You know, we can definitely learn from other providers what we should and what we should not do.
Yeah.
But all our feedback is very beneficial if you're going to spend the money to build a new tool. You can definitely do that. What is that page? I don't know. I've written on it before, but I can find it for you and give it to you later on. So this is how you create a contract, and then you go down, as I did quickly for the test PSP, fill in these credentials and then hit down the bottom, create contract, yeah. But I'll go back to that test PSP contract I
When
just
you
created.
create contract, sorry, Jason, what happens? That's the well,
What happens after that, yeah.
that's when we receive a request or for a new merchant.
No, that would happen before. But in Sandbox, if someone definitely wants to go live, they have to put a request form in and go through that process. If they just want to play around on Sandbox, I'm not quite sure if there's a legal requirement, but from our point of view, they just do it. We don't know what merchants they've added. We invite people on our merchants on Sandbox to play around, literally to test our system, to see what integrations we have, see how it works for them. Take out good ideas, you mean? But you're working on that, from what I understand. So go back to that test PSP contract which I created. So you can do a search for different contracts. I've got a lot. Most of our merchants only have a few. So you can do a search for your contract. You can do a search which methods, which contracts are offering which methods you've already configured. And basically do a search. But a simple search here. To test PSP. You see I've got two. Here you see the different methods. This one's been configured for two different divisions. And you can see the progress. That's what this circle is here. So this basically says we're right at the start of the contract configuration. The contract is now being configured, so it is there. But there's some more steps required before that you get this tick. And that is to determine which methods you want to use for that contract, which countries you want to operate. Unfortunately, you cannot change the currencies anymore unless the merchant contacts support. We can make the change through an API call. You can say which division it is for.
Why can't they change the currency anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. Feature, I guess. That's just something that it's done. There is a more complex reason behind in the background why they can't just change it, but I can't say more on that really. But at the moment you can't. You can add divisions here, as you can see I just added the playground division. It's good to click save each time you make a configuration change. Unfortunately, you go back to loading up the porthole again.
Oh, okay.
But it's the best way to make sure you don't lose your data.
And where can I play around with this routing option that I say please route a bit more to this? Where is this also there?
It's the next step.
Oh, okay.
So at the moment, the step configuring the contract, then the methods and countries. So we're saying my test PSP contract is worldwide, which means anytime I pass a transaction, as long as the conditions are met, it doesn't matter which country comes through, I'll send this one through. You can then limit that contract for the different countries. And we have a lot of countries. We have 250 of them. I'm not quite sure if you have flags for all of them, but as you scroll down, you'll see. When we come to what we would call more exotic markets, basically the parts of the world we don't do much economic trade, you can then also configure them.
Peru as well. Interesting. And I guess that makes sense, no? Because it's very important. Now I see why you have the 250 countries and territories, because as a merchant you want all the possibilities there. Even like, okay, got it. Makes a little bit more sense now.
There's even some exotic.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh.
I must have hit something wrong.
Yeah, I got it.
So basically, click the countries you want to add there.
America, what flag is that?
Which one's this one?
American Samoa, middle. On the island.
It's an island in the Pacific. Half it's owned by America, the other half's just Samoa. You'll find a lot of countries you didn't know existed when you go through this list. And here we select the methods. Let's just go for the most basic ones.
If a merchant were to click on a method that is actually not offered by this particular provider.
Sorry, the accent again.
So say I want to use, I don't know, yeah, whatever. So yeah, press F24. But the merchant, not the merchant, the provider is actually not offering that because they're only offering credit cards. So will the merchant get an error message here?
They won't see them. The only boxes you'll see here are offers for payment methods, the ones that are available.
Yeah,
configured.
perfect. Even better.
By the country that we've selected, or is the standard payment method that
Yeah, so you select the country. So in the next step, you'll see the countries that'll come up. It doesn't, in the next step, it'll do that. It's ideal.
And how can I know as a merchant what I have to click?
This is a Polish payment method that's very specific.
Yeah.
How a merchant will know the difference, I don't know.
Yeah.
This,
Because if I look at this, well, do I need the one on the right side or in the middle column? I don't know. Okay.
So when they create an adapter and create the methods, they also create what they call forms. And those forms are then present the different boxes. You can click the different payment methods that are available. And this one, if it's an error or not, I don't know. So you've also got two SEPAs.
Yeah, and Visa Dankort, Visa Electron.
Visa Dankort is a payment method in Denmark.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Visa Electron, debit. There's some legacy.
Yeah.
And so here, oh, I did not cook it. I didn't click it.
Oh.
So you see here, Ideal is only offered in Netherlands.
Right.
The merchant can click it, but by default it's not there. You can turn these other methods off.
Yeah, it's very popular in Netherlands.
It's only there.
In Belgium as well? Okay.
So it's just a matter of you turn these options on. When we go to the next stage where you were talking about before with the routing, when you have these boxes, so MasterCard will only offer for these three for this contract. So these won't be offered when you go to do the routing.
Where would I set amounts? Is it also in the routing or is it here? So if I say, okay, if it's above 500 euros, I'm not going to offer credit card, I only want invoice, for instance. Is that here or is it in routing?
It's
Here,
in
right?
the contract here. So the changes have been saved again in here.
Got it.
Or maximum transaction amount.
Yeah.
So you put these values in here. You can add more. I mean, you must be able to delete them after you've added them. And for example, yeah. This is where you would add that information. Eventually you come down, you hit this limit of and now if you have a transaction, even though the routing has been completed, if you have a transaction that is under 22 euros, the ideal method will not be presented on this payment page, which is probably expired by now. It's up there anyway, the payment page.
And what will happen then? What other payment method?
We only get the other payment methods that are
the standard or something.
that are not configured or are configured for that amount.
Yeah, exactly. So what's presented when the OPG or when the merchant sends a request to open a payment session, we send them back this in the format with URLs. Yeah, it's expired. With the format with the URLs that I showed you before with the different integration, or we can send them this page here, the methods that are available. So basically it's a list request. We send back a list response with the available payment methods. And then they build that into their shop and then they do a charge request. And then we pass that charge request on to the PSP. So if the different configurations, if we'd said no transactions over the value of 500 euros for MasterCard would not have been presented as an option. The OPG will just block that and it'll come back with an error, no routes configured or no routes could be provided.
No worries. Thinking out loud.
It depends on how they configured it, I think. They shouldn't, it's not a good message to show the merchant, but that is not to say the merchant doesn't see it. It depends on what information they provide the merchant. But that's not the ideal case to do that.
Okay, so we're running out of time. What else stuff will merchant portal shows us?
We've already run out of time, Yvonne. All of them, there is a lot more. We've only got to number 2.
Then an idea that we schedule another session maybe for next Monday.
If you found it beneficial, I'll give you all the time I have to give.
I think it could be really good.
Okay.
Because I mean, there's routing, there's the KPIs, there is risk. So maybe we can do the second session.
If you'd like that, I can.
I'd love to.
So shall I leave routing as for next week? Okay. Any other questions? I'll send a request.
And then you can process what you said.
Well, there is a bit of information.
That's a bit. Okay.
This is a lot more complicated than other merchants have generally, but there is a merchant that's a lot more complicated than this one. But we'll talk about this next week. Any questions?
No, I think it was really well explained. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
You're more than welcome.